Welcome into Dynasty Mode. That's right. It's the unofficial EA Sports College Football Game Podcast. My name is Arky Shea. Sitting over there, wanting to say something, but waiting so patiently to get introduced, is Demetri Ravanos. Demetri, how are you, friend?
Oh, hello, Archimedes. How are you, buddy?
I am good. I am so good. We got a good topic here for this here program. Also, for the first time, I actually sort of paid attention to something we're going to do at the very beginning of the show in just a moment.
Uh-oh.
But listen, we saved and we simmed it to next week. So if
Very good.
we didn't lose any progress, right? But now we're just going to add on to the experience.
You know what? You just hit on something that we should do at some point. I want to hear stories down the road of the most inopportune time the game froze on you. Because once you got up to the next gen disc systems, I guess the last one the game would have been on would have been Xbox One and PS what? Three, yeah. That's when it got really clunky, at least for me. That's when it started to get really like hit or miss of whether or not this thing is going to work.
I got the saddest day I ever had with the video game that we're specifically talking about was when I got the red ring of death on my Xbox in the middle of a game.
Oh,
where
no.
it shut off and I tried to turn it back on and I got the red ring of death. And back then it was like, hey man, if you send this to us, give us like $50, we'll probably send it back. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like
were you dealing with Microsoft, or were you just sending it off to some guy that said he can make this happen for $50?
To be fair, I was on Tinder doing that.
Fair.
At the time, and not Grindr. People always accuse me of that. I don't know what you're trying to imply there. All right, but knock it off. All right, Grindr is a lovely source of fellowship.
Yeah, literally. Listen, you do have a grinder body, at least for a specific subset of grinder.
I'm a rugged bear, baby. I'm a rugged bear. You'll find out later. You'll find out. Don't worry about it.
I believe you and I would be described as sloppy bears, according to the wonderful television show Happy Endings.
You ain't seen this, okay? Actually, it's not true. You may have seen this when I was doing radio, and I got sunburnt. And I decided to do a show without a shirt on.
Yeah, and sure. Why wouldn't you?
Well, everyone was like, hey, this is weird. I'm like, no one's in the studio except for someone taking the photographs. So I appreciate that. There's no way that should have ever been a thing. But listen, sunburns hurt. Sunburns hurt. But what doesn't hurt is the news we're about to give to you. The news that we're going to talk about this here podcast, Dynasty Mode Episode 5. My Dynasty, My Rules. And we're going to talk all about our rules, Demetri and mine respectively, for when we start a Dynasty. We give you our top 4 rules each that when we're starting a brand new Dynasty that we have to adhere to going into that particular Dynasty.
Did you do anything regarding team levels, 6-star, 5-star, 4-star, et cetera, et cetera? Or should we just say, should we just say it's an unspoken rule you cannot start with a 6-star team? Like, that should be understood.
We should not say that because I have a fun game coming up considering that too. So,
okay.
Just on the back burner for a moment. Can I clean up something from last week that I think we should clean up, address? First of all, if you watch the enhanced video, thank you, all 9 of you. Also, thank you to everyone who didn't tell me that the banner that read Dynasty Mode Episode 4 was misspelled. Thank you. I appreciate you not pointing that out.
It's the quality we strive for.
It is the quality that we definitely got. I'll put it that way out there. But it's now spelled right this time. I have not gone back to edit the last one because who cares now at this point?
Yeah.
But if you remember, Dynasty Mode Episode 4 was about our fantasy draft as far as the new voices in the game that we would like to see. And Demetri, I wanted to tell you that some people responded to our actual draft, and I wanted to show you some of what we got on Twitter and on Facebook if you would like to see that for just a moment.
I very much would.
Now, this is going to be on the enhanced video, or the video version, which is on YouTube. You could go check that out by searching for Arky Shea, ARKYSHEA. You can subscribe to that. But first, Demetri, I'll show you this. This comes from Bama Chris HSV, who says, for play-by-play, Ron Franklin, please.
I don't know who that is.
You know Ron Franklin?
Not off the top of my head.
Ron Franklin was with Mike Gottfried for a long time on Saturday nights, and he's a great, great voice. So I would not hate Ron Franklin as the voice, but if you gave me the options that we put out last week, yours was quite the swerve, bro, and mine was straight up a grand slam.
Yep.
I think, Ron Franklin's in the discussion, but, you only get one play-by-play guy, right?
Yeah, I just, that's not a voice that I say, oh, that sounds like college football to me. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and now that you have jogged my memory of who he is, I do remember the voice, but, once you threw out Vern, like, the gauntlet had been laid down, or I guess the standard had been set of what we were looking for, and I'm sorry, Ron Franklin doesn't rise to that level.
Well, that's your opinion. May he rest in peace. If he's passed away, I'm not sure.
Let's assume he has.
Also on Twitter, Coach Guns tweets that our betting analyst needs to get changed to Todd Furman. So you can make with that of what you want. Todd Furman's a fine betting analyst, but again, I'm loyal to my guy. And Demetri wants to make a mockery of the game by putting Mike Francesa in it and just as your betting analyst.
I mean, look, that goes at all. That goes exactly to why I wouldn't want Todd Furman. I mean, like, it's okay to have fun, folks. It's okay to make this thing a little bit silly.
I'll give you this. I think Todd Furman's a fine betting analyst, but as far as fun,
yeah, that's exactly my point. Like,
does it hold the candle to what a Mike Francesa could be? True.
There was this guy, I want to say his name, I'm almost positive his name is Mark Goodman. He was one of the original VJs on MTV back in the 80s, and now he's on Sirius XM, and he's on a channel that or at least used to be on a channel that I would listen to regularly. And I would always make this point about him. He is the epitome of you can know so much about what you're talking about that it's boring to hear you talk about it. That's the way I feel about Todd Furman and betting analysis.
I don't hate that analysis that you put out there. Like, for me, like, it's not a voice that gets me sort of more in tune to it. Mike Francesa, you just want to hear if he falls asleep during his betting analysis.
Give me, if Francesa's not available, give me Scotty Farrell.
Okay. Farrell on the bench.
I just want someone that I know is chewing on cigarettes when he's not on camera.
That's probably him, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to Mike Sparkman. Uncle Mike tweets, Vern will be controversial, but I'm personally am a fan. He says, yeah, he lost his fastball late in his career, but if you heard his voice, you knew the game was important. His enthusiasm was natural. Who would be the rules analyst, he asked. He says that college football rules expert was good on TV, I thought. I'm not quite sure who that was. I don't know if that's one of the CBS or Fox random guys. No, I shouldn't say random guys, but, do we need a rules analyst? Like,
I'm pretty sure Fox uses Pereira for everything, right?
Well, I don't know what the Twitter handle was. Right?
Oh,
like
gotcha.
CBS uses the same Gene Steratore, right? Like,
yeah, Gene Steratore does both the NFL, college football, and doesn't he show up for the NCAA tournament?
Oh, he was all over the NCAA tournament.
Which I know he refereed all of them, but it's still, I really do like the idea that, like, Gene Steratore's got nothing to do. Let's call him.
It really is like, listen, we've had enough money in the budget after paying all these analysts for one guy. Can you do everything? By the way, we're looking for...
What do they have on Paramount Plus? Is it the Champions League? Or is
Champions League's on there, yeah. I think it's Champions League. I'm not sure if
whichever one it is. I really do like the idea of Gene Steratore being asked very quickly to study up on the rules because he is now the rules analyst for that and the Masters.
Hey, Gene Steratore, we'll go to you in studio. Looking at this VAR replay, which I think is redundant. Those are on Twitter and on Facebook. Just a couple to add for you. Anthony Oliver says, by the way, this is at Arky Shea Experience on the Facebook page. If we want to, that's where I'm put the. Well, it's a former podcast, true. But the page is Arky Shea Experience. It has this and a whole bunch of other stuff. Anthony Oliver says, I want Brent Musburger and Dan Fouts. Well, you wanted Brent Musburger, Dan Fouts.
Yeah. Anthony, who hurt you? Like, it's okay to enjoy yourself. Dan Fouts, Jesus, you might as well say Greg McElroy.
Shots fired, my friend, for someone who, attended the same university that Greg McElroy did.
That's right.
That's you, by the way, not me.
That's right.
And finally from Facebook, Seth Eves added Joe Tessitore, RG3, Holly Rowe, and Laura Rutledge. Joe Tessitore is...
I like the idea that this is all in the booth.
Wouldn't that be great?
Talking at once.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had a Dennis Miller yet, so if we could get him thrown in the booth, thrown in some, very acerbic quirks, I should say, or quips. That's all of those.
Quips. Nope, I like quirps. That works too.
Isn't that like what the smallest measurable unit of or as a quark? What is that?
That's a quark.
Doesn't really matter. So you can always respond on YouTube, also to us on Twitter. Ed Arky Shea is my handle, and Demetri Ravanos. Demetri is spelled like you would actually spell it: Demetri.
Demetri. Ravanos just sounded out. That one is spelled exactly like it sounds.
Is there another way to do Demetri?
Oh, there are a million ways to do Demetri. It depends on if it originates in Greek or Russian. And then
you're Greek.
There,
you got Greek in your body. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
From there, people have freestyled it.
So when you start like the first two letters, and you're like, "Fuck it, let's see what we got here." Got to be a couple more consonants, right? There does sound like a vowel. We'll get to that somewhere. Is it a U? It's got to be, right? What about an umlaut? You do umlauts in Greek? We'll figure it out.
Is your name have a hashtag in
it? It's getting one today. I'm just telling you that. All right, Demetri. So today's episode, My Dynasty, My Rules, is all about our particular dynasty when we are starting a brand new dynasty. So, Demetri, since I started last week's up top and by doing the first choice, I think I will give you the floor to do your very first rule when it comes to starting a brand new dynasty.
All right. What makes dynasty mode in your mind, Arky?
The sex.
Like what?
I mean,
it's just someone's been. Never mind. I'm going to stop myself before I make a joke that I really like. I'm not going to do the whole cancel culture thing. Like I just could not look myself in the mirror if I completed the joke I was about to make.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. To me, it's recruiting, right? Like that is the thing that separates it from, hey, I'm just getting together and playing a game with my buddies. So my first rule comes from recruiting, and it is you cannot create a player until you are a head coach.
Interesting. Okay. Now the impetus of this idea and this podcast is that we are going to go back and forth and tell you whether or not we think that's a valid rule or not. I'll be honest with you, Demetri. The create a player and then bringing them to the dynasty mode, I don't like that at all.
Really?
Like, I feel like the players that you have inside this beautiful world of numbers and ones and zeros and ons and offs, that should be your player list. I don't think you should be able to create anybody at any time for dynasty mode or edit anyone's attributes or anything like that either.
I understand that point of view. I will say I think creating a player is very different from editing attributes, where you then have to go compete to sign that player. And that, I think, is part of the reason why you should have to be a head coach. You should have to be able to utilize your own skills to get whatever it is you create. To me, create a player makes it a little bit more realistic. Otherwise, you sort of get stuck with a roster where everybody is waiting their turn to be a senior, to have progressed to the proper level to be the best one at that particular position. It's fun sometimes to throw a freshman with all 99s into the mix and figure out where he goes. I will say, I think, you remember how I told you, I think this was episode 1, that it felt like there was some sort of fail-safe in the game to make sure Florida State would always be bad and Georgia Tech would always be good unless, the user intervened.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a fail-safe to make sure you never got your all 99 guy creation.
You shouldn't. Right? If you're going to do that, it shouldn't just basically be you pluck, you creating a player in a lab and just, inducing him to come because, hey man, FIU's campus is really swell.
I don't know why you have to throw around some school that one of us has a deep emotional connection to, having visited there one time.
I apologize for that. Let me bring to a school that you have no ties to emotionally. Hawaii shouldn't just be able to get a player.
Arky Shea, you son of a bitch!
The enhanced version of the video can show you how that was a funny moment there. Okay, yeah, so I get wanting to do that, but that's rule one. That's interesting for you because I don't think you should ever be able to create. I think creative player is for different modes. Like if you want to just, go chase after the Heisman or hot chicks or, whatever mode you. What is the hot chick chase mode, by the way?
I mean, that really should be part of that campus legend mode, shouldn't it? Like that should be a huge part of the campus legend mode.
Like getting numbers and stuff. Like it's like
I mean, whether it is getting numbers or even like more practically, like the more numbers you get, the less focused on football you are.
How great would it be, like if you don't want to show like the physical interaction? I guess, right? What if like you just wake up and like there's literally like another notch on the headboard?
Like it's the 1960s.
Listen, you still do that in the 2020s?
Have you
people,
like just
people still have headboards?
Arky Shay, let's say you quantum leap into the body of a single female college student and you go, things are getting hot and heavy with a gentleman that maybe this is date number 3 and it's go time, and you walk in and he literally has notches carved out of your headboard. Are you telling me you are not running for the hills?
No, like I'm running to take off my panties, man.
Wow.
Like, okay, by the way, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that.
I
shouldn't say that because I don't wear panties.
Sure.
Like I'm a commando kind of gal.
I was about to say you're a lady about town. I am less concerned with how many notches there are and more concerned with his associating knife play with sex. That is why I.
Oh man, I like she's like the sun's starting to peek through the dark the all blackout curtain you're supposed to have. You didn't pull it closely too.
She's sort of
Arky, please, half covered.
We are talking about college. You do mean black bed sheet.
It's a black bed sheet
hung over the window.
The other fitted sheet has come up, and it's clearly the only thing covering her near her naked body, and he's just up on the side of the bed, carving into the bed.
I was about to say, zoom out a guy with like a little Swiss Army knife, just chopping away.
Okay. My first rule, this feels like super simple and basic to me.
Okay.
But my first rule is that I have to start as a coordinator on the very worst team, but on the worst side of the ball. Right. So for example, in NCAA, I think 14, I think there's 27 one-star teams. Right. And you can start as a coordinator on either side. So you'd have to go back and sort of look at the numbers. And I used to have them sort of around because I found that kind of interesting. Yeah. But like if I wanted to start my first dynasty, I make it as hard on myself as possible. The worst side of the ball on the worst team, or the pretty close to worst team.
So you spent a lot of time as UMass, then, is what you're telling me.
Man, being a D coordinator at UMass is awful. It is not fun. You know what? But you earn your stripes.
I mean, I respect the extra level of difficulty. I tend to go like, 1 star is right. But, to Arky's point, like, I believe it's either FIU or UTEP. One of them is a 79 and the other is a 77. That's a pretty good score for a 1-star team, right?
No, it's great, actually.
Yeah, it's very good. Like, there are multiple MAC teams that are hovering around 75 in NCAA 14. So it is very possible that you can start as a 1-star team and you actually have a better roster than some 2 or even 3-star teams as well. I don't look, I'm not going to say this is a dumb rule because I get it. Like, the fun thing of video games. I used to live with a dude in college that thought the fun of video games was like trying to run it up to 150 points in Madden and with no challenge. The fun is the challenge, right? So I'm not going to say this is a bad rule. I am going to say that Arky, again, going back to some of our listeners' suggestions, it is okay to have fun. It is okay to smile upon occasion.
And by the way, I do smile. Like, this is the part that I enjoy. Like, this is where I get lost. Like, I get frustrated, like game frustrated, like for it. But like, I'm able to not let this affect my life. Like the joy I get is being able to keep Michigan within 40, like, and then have other people notice. I'm like, hey man, this guy only allowed Washington to score 56 points. Like they should have scored 80 easy.
Right.
So maybe we should, let's just talk to them a minute.
Right.
By the way, so there are 27 one-star teams in NCAA 2014. I want to know, besides the ones you mentioned, can you just name, say, 6 of them? Just give me 6.
Oh, easily. All
okay,
right.
go. Without missing one, without doubling up what you mentioned.
Yep. New Mexico.
Hold on. That is correct.
Who's the other one in the Mountain West? San Jose State.
That is correct.
We're talking
starting in the Mountain West. You're like, let me go
very,
by conference and start with clearly the Mountain West.
That's right. Very on brand for me. Are we talking about 14?
Yes, the most recent game.
So there were a couple of surprise ones in there that you would not guess now. Like, for instance, I believe Memphis is a one-star team in that game.
Memphis is. I was going to mention some of these teams that are surprising just 8 some odd years ago. I guess 9 technically when the game came out. Yeah.
Washington State is a one-star team.
That is correct.
That's
4. Give me 2 more.
Yeah, I can. I'm just trying to think. Like, I know there's another one that would make you go, "What, really?" But I'm trying to remember who it is. I mean, hell, do we count FIU and UTEP since I said them earlier? Or do I have to pick
No, and I count you as a loser in that game because I already said you can't name them again.
No. What I'm asking is,
you asked, but I think you mentioned
you said 6. This is some horse shit.
Mm-hmm. Is it? It
is. It is
a completely made up game with
your
no
heart
real
of
winner.
hearts. You know it is horse shit.
I feel like I'm making the rule. In fact, let's get Gene Steratore on the line. Gene, if you can rule in on this, I think he says it right. But no, just think about these teams that aren't that bad anymore that are one-stars in. Akron. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. And we're done.
Army, right? They're much better now.
Oh, was Buffalo? Army? I didn't realize Army was one star.
Buffalo's much better now. Eastern Michigan, they've been to bowl games a couple. FIU and FAU, as you've sort of already gotten it yet.
Georgia, to be fair, FIU might be the lone team that is below a 1-star now.
Man, I don't want to poke at the bear.
Listen,
but they're borrowing pads from other universities to participate in football.
So every year, the Shutdown Fullcast does a promotion called the Charity Bundy Bowl, where you are supposed to donate an amount to this charity based on a score that means something to you, right? And I went back and looked at the 2021 FIU season. I was going to donate the total amount of points they gave up. And once we got over 1,500, I decided to stop.
Damn. Okay.
I'm sorry. Not over 1,500. Over 500. I decided to stop.
That's much better. 1,500 or 500 over 12 games. That's only 40 some odd points a game. Ooh,
yeah,
that's not good. It's not good. Idaho doesn't exist anymore as far as this is concerned. Louisiana Tech and Memphis, as you mentioned. MTSU's a 1-star team, and they've been to a bunch of bowl games recently. New Mexico and their counterpart, New Mexico State.
Yep.
North Texas, San Jose State, South Alabama, Texas State, Tulane, UAB, Louisiana, and, of course, the terrible schools like UTSA, who just won a conference championship. UMass, UTEP. That's a couple. What I missed? Western Kentucky, Western Michigan. So
now let's be fair to UTSA. They would have only been playing D1 football for a year before that.
Oh, I can find that out for you real quick. But yeah. So so by the way, I should get back to what we were talking about. Technically, my first rule. Coordinator, worst side of the ball, worst team, or one of the worst teams, because there's only one truly worst teams. And there's some that are sort of negligible as far as which one's technically the worst. And I just started with the next dynasty. So,
all right. I'll give you one that sort of builds on that. Because if you are good at what you do.
Oh, sorry, real quick. Can I interrupt just to get this out of the way? UTSA's all-time record is 64-68.
So close to 500.
So they February 2006, they wanted to look at a feasibility study of football. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's been a minute. And they're conference champions last year, so go Roadrunners.
With someone is going to get Sincere McCormick in the like 5th or 6th round and do very good with that
Yeah,
pick, I think.
I think so. I think so too.
All right. So building off of your rule, we have all had the experience where we take a job as a coordinator at a 1-star school. Whether you go undefeated, you get one big non-conference win, you win the conference, whatever the case may be, your head coach ends up bolting after year 1, and suddenly they are now the head coach at, I don't know, Auburn and USC always seem to open at the end of the first year on 2014. If your coach leaves for that job, it is my rule you cannot accept a head coaching job after year 1.
I love that rule. I love that rule very, very, very much. I think it's just unreasonable, right? And like I think the new game needs to put in sort of some parameters, like some kind of like restrictor plate to like trying to fast track you like that.
All right.
Yeah, you need to slow it down. Like you can't just, be UMass's D coordinator for a year, get them somehow barely to 2 wins. No thanks to the offense, maybe. And all of a sudden, like Auburn's calling and saying, "Hey,
okay.
What would you think?"
Okay, so let me clarify what I mean, because you're like, we've all had those experiences, right? Like, hey, you make FIU undefeated, and suddenly LSU wants you to come interview for the head coaching job. FIU undefeated as their offensive coordinator, I mean. If your coach, like, so in that situation, let's say UMass's head coach gets that Auburn job, you cannot ascend to UMass head coach.
You cannot be the head coach of the place that you're currently at.
No, you cannot.
Now, why not?
Because you want to go get that coordinator experience at the P5 level. I mean, again, look, these are rules for me. I think these should be rules for everybody, but this is a free society.
Yeah, I sort of hear, like, if UMass fires their coach, there's a good chance you shouldn't even be on the consideration for it anyway, because you'd likely just clear out the whole staff. So I can see sort of from a realism, like if your team's that bad, why would you want the D coordinator from that team or the O coordinator from that team? You clearly didn't like how that team was playing. Right. So there's no feasible reason to just keep that guy. Unless like you're at that point interviewing high school coaches, which who ever knows, right, at that point. But okay, so from a reality standpoint, I can say that's a valid thing. I've never had that come up, like as far as a possibility, but I can sort of see that you can't be your current coach's successor. Like you can't be that.
Can I throw something else out to you? Just as a, like, what do you think about this?
Okay.
If you are a coordinator, your coach gets, a better job and moves on, and they promote the other coordinator to head coach, for the sake of reality, you got to go.
For the sake of reality. Boy, again, we're
I mean, look, we're not all built to be Tommy Reese, where suddenly your coworker is your boss now.
Right. So you gotta go. You gotta go. What about you're given the option?
I mean, you probably will.
Do you have to go?
Option, like, right?
It would be like, hey, would you like to, yes or no kind of thing. So let's say UMass does a really good job. Again,
right?
I'm D coordinator. All of a sudden, let's just say FAU was like, hey man, we really like what you guys did down there.
We like that Minuteman style.
We would like to hire that Minuteman, and the Minuteman gets to make his own staff. And of course, why wouldn't you be on the list, right?
Right.
So you're on board with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I mean, it's your rules, so I guess you should be on board with that.
Yeah.
For this, okay, all right. Okay, so my second rule is that once you start, you can only do one change of all the conferences just to get them to what they are currently, right, to what they are. So if, let's say, like, your dynasty starts in reality, a lot of teams change. You can't change. Not till you start the next dynasty to get the conference realignment to what you are. But you're playing for what it is in that moment. And maybe the game allows you, with some of the the online downloads you can get, to sort of, hey, Texas and Oklahoma are moving to the SEC. Would you like to incorporate this into your dynasty or something like that, right? Or whatever. But I don't think you change anything outside when it comes to conferences until right before you start. Because I think at 14 you could just change conferences whenever you need to change conferences, right?
Yeah,
like before
that's
the
right.
season.
Yeah, at the beginning of each season, you could. I
So
mean, I'm okay with that. I always
because you
found
play you play a whole dynasty in like a weekend. It feels like you get really into it, like you're 6 seasons in.
right. I always found that correcting conferences, like, it took so much time that I don't know why anybody would want to do it more than once.
Oh yeah, there's that. I think also, and now, I'm not a fuddy duddy. Like, I like the realism also, but like I also like having a side dynasty where, like, I make a fantasy group of conferences, right? Like
Oh, okay.
what I think they should be. And like if I get bored, I'll play in the fantasy world outside of my normal fantasy world, which is just slightly removed from my real world, which is basically a fantasy world.
Right.
So
I got you.
yeah. So I want to really challenge myself in the fantasy world. And then I'm like, hey, man, listen, George is in the Mountain West, baby. What do you want me to do? That's just what happens.
It
like,
would
they
be
made a call.
One of the things that I always hated about the game as it was given to us was that you couldn't just dissolve conferences, right? Like, if you're going to get wacky with it, like, give me a 16, 18 team conference, but don't stick me with another 5-team conference.
Right. Like, I don't need the Big 12's last 4 teams being a conference at that point.
That's right.
Find them a home. Okay, this is ridiculous. Okay,
yeah,
you have
exactly.
a 3. Yeah. Okay, so what's your third rule?
You must name every coach you are associated with.
Associate as in, like, that's on your staff?
Whether they are on your staff, you are on their staff, on a staff with them. Every single coach that you are associated with must be named. If it happens to be named after your friends, go for it.
Yeah, in this case, like, I feel like that the fact that that's a rule for you, it's a little interesting to me, because I think that's sort of like an extra addendum, right? Like, that if you want to go to that extra step, it's like going through and naming all the players their current names.
Right.
Like, if you really got a boner for it, right? I guess get after it. But why do you want the names of the coaches so badly?
I like to be able to follow guys that I worked with, where they end up, how they're doing. I like to have a little coaching tree going, and it's easier to remember who I worked with if they are named after people I know.
Okay. When this comes out, I would love to see where we end up after like 5 or 6 seasons. Like, you should let me, and I'll let you know how it goes on mine too. Like,
all right,
Demetri, I got to be honest with you. I didn't expect this, but you're Hawaii, man. Finally, brother. You're Hawaii.
Yes.
You're a rainbow warrior, boss. My third thing. This all begins like basically at the very beginning of the dynasty before you start. I don't change conferences, and I don't change schedules either. I think changing the schedule. I do think changing the schedule is sort of artificially juicing up your opportunity to, because I don't think, you're picking a bad team like North Texas or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you're changing out a non-conference game to make it, an FCS game, or at the time Division I AA. I think you're changing because you're trying to put Alabama on the schedule.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not a reality thing for me. Like, I'm cool with, like, down the road, if Alabama's all of a sudden on your schedule and they're coming to, what's it, Denton, Texas?
Yeah.
Like, if they're coming to your house, sure, why not?
Wait, even if you are creating games in a more realistic way where you are going to Tuscaloosa, you are not okay with that?
Well, I think if they're on your schedule sort of now, right, and they show up in the future, because they will show up in the future, I think it's fine, but just you going in each year and just sort of artificially juicing it up, especially in the first, I always say in the first 5 years, because again, if you happen to do really well against Miami, and Miami is never going to play you anyway, like all of a sudden you're boosting your profile without sort of quote unquote earning it, if that makes sense. Like you don't just get to be the star coordinator against five, Power Five teams and then get through Conference USA.
I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
I
Like going through and saying like, who are the top 5 teams in the country? Let's put them on the list. Who are the
I
top 5 available? Let's go.
I think this is a bananas rule. I don't understand this one at all. Because you also know, and granted, like you would have to stay at a job for an extended period of time before you pick up on this, I guess. But at some point, they just start the schedule over. So, like, I want to say it's like every 7 seasons, maybe. The schedule just starts over. So you are playing the exact same schedule Notre Dame played in 2013 if you are picking this up and you're in season, 2021, 2022.
Well, that's the small addendum I add, which is that if your schedule is completely repeating, then yeah, at that point you're allowed. But like at the beginning, that's really when you're doing your most damage. Right by year 7, 6, 7, 8, or whatever, you hope to be a head coach at a pretty good place, right? That would be that's your
so
hope.
Then you're so then you're okay once you're with a P5 team. Sort of monkeying around with the schedule.
Yeah, I'm a lot more okay with that because you're not sort of boosting your numbers just to get that job. Like at the very beginning, I want at the very beginning to be really hard to get a job. Like someone had to be Brian Harsin has to be amazing to get the Auburn job. Bad example.
Well, obviously not.
Other coaches have to be really good to be able to get a Power 5 job.
Okay.
So I don't think you can just, have good outings and put Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame as your 4 non-conference games, because that's insane. It never really happens like that. And then I think that, I don't know what the algorithm actually looks like, but I feel like that's sort of trying to boost your ability to get to one of those jobs faster, when really it should just be about earning it. And that takes the non-conference schedule, which could be kind of crappy, or you can have a good game already on there too. Usually if you're a smaller school, you get like max 2 pretty good at most,
right?
Not Power 5 teams on your schedule. So yeah, I think that sort of artificially lifts your boat.
All right, are you ready for my kind of bananas rule here? Because this one could actually hurt you in the game.
Okay.
If you get a pick in the end zone, you've got to run it out. You've got to try and make something of that. You cannot take the touchback.
Interesting.
Here's my thought on it. My thought is, if you get an interception in the end zone, there's a very good chance your opponent was in the red zone, right? So what is better? Have you having the ball on the 1 yard line on your own 1, or them having the ball on your 20? I say it's you having the ball every time.
You're thinking of this like that, like high school coach in like Tennessee who never punts.
I believe that guy very briefly for 1 season was the coach at Providence College. He blocked me on Twitter, by the way.
Did he really?
He did, because when he posted a thing saying that he was resigning, I sent a quote tweet that said, "And he punts."
That's pretty solid. Oh man, and he blocked you with that. That's a good line.
He did.
That's someone really not understanding what's going on.
I have to assume I am not the first to have gotten to that joke.
How can I assume you were? Can I just go ahead?
I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. I just worry that that is not reality. But sort of along those lines. Like, what's the loss? Like, let's say you get run out of bounds at the half-yard line. What's the loss? As long as you don't go backwards and suddenly it turns into a safety, who cares?
Is that for your entire journey?
Yeah.
As a college coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, this is my crazy.
No. I don't think. Like I thought there might be some type of scaling back of that as you become a higher and higher up a coach. And again, your mantra clearly is it's okay to have fun every now and then.
Right.
So would be better than a team that returns 11 pick sixes in a season because their coach is insane.
Right. Right. Exactly. How are you going to get the 110-yard pick six if you do not try to get the ball out of the end zone?
Exactly. And that's why you're throwing up the clipboard in the air as soon as the pick happens, like 8 yards deep in the end zone. You're like, run it! Get out!
I throw the clipboard up in the air the second the opponent releases the ball. Whatever happens, someone's scoring. That's worth celebrating.
Are you mad at your team if they don't get it out of the end zone?
No. They tried.
They tried. No extra stadium steps. You did what we wanted you to do. There's just a lot of guys around you.
I'm a love them up kind of coach.
You are a love them up kind of coach. I do appreciate that.
That is something that former ECU coach Ruffin McNeil described himself to me as one time.
I love Ruffin McNeil.
That's
the personality that needs to be a part of college football.
I at some point need to play for you the song that I put together for Ruffin McNeil that included him answering questions about Halloween candy with the phrase, "I said yum and yum yum."
Bless that man. Where is he now?
Yeah. I think he's just retired now. I don't think he stuck around in Oklahoma or went to Los Angeles.
Okay. So he was with Lincoln Riley
he was with Lincoln
most recently?
I think even when he got sort of bumped down from defensive coordinator, he was still like, chief vibes officer or something like that.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? According to Wikipedia, which I believe, by the way, he's still the defensive line coach? No, he's a special assistant at North Carolina State.
Oh, that's right. I did know that. I did know that. I forgot that happened.
He came back home.
Yep.
He came back home. Former East Carolina head coach, if you aren't aware. But if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are aware of
that's
who
right.
he is.
Also, ECU alum.
Be. He was an alum, wasn't he? I forgot about that. Yeah.
Also,
I don't do a lot of
Early.
I don't do a lot of things about Ruffin McNeil in my life, but when the name comes up, I'm flooded with good memories.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in your fourth rule because your fourth rule seems to be a gameplay rule and sort of a general, hey, listen, this is the vibe we're putting off here. Ruffin McNeil's putting out these vibes over there. Maybe is he your special assistant?
He is. He is now.
Chief vibes officer is what I'm going to go with.
Imagine the vibes he'd be putting out in Honolulu. He'd be great.
Okay. All right. I see the staff you're starting to put together when it's time to get out there. Okay. But let me ask you about this before I get to the fourth rule I have.
Yeah.
Where are you on
in Raleigh, North Carolina? Oh, sorry.
Where are you close to Ruffin? Where are you in terms of gameplay difficulty? Is it always on Heisman mode?
I go all American mode because I found on Heisman mode, with 13 and 14, the game started giving linebackers jumping abilities that did not exist in the real world. It was just impossible to throw a ball over the middle.
Okay, fair enough. So that leads me
to quote my friend Bomani Jones, game be cheating.
My fourth rule is piggybacking off of that.
Okay.
Because again, and I mention this because
your rule is only throw interceptions down near the end zone.
But that's right. Let's have a nice little standoff here with me and you.
That's right.
I throw the interception in the end zone. You bring them back. I throw them back into the end zone. You bring them back. So I have found that part of the joy gets sucked out of the college football video game for me. Part of it is because how good I get.
Sure.
I get this inflated self ego, right? That over like a 12-year span, I can go 129-2, right? I just don't like that about the game. I think that it is what the reason I like college football so much more than Madden is because college football gives you so many more things to play with, like so many more teams, so many more ways to be able to build a dynasty, so on and so forth. So it's why I like it so much more. But I do not like the fact that it's so much easier to be good at this game. And I never really restrict myself when it comes to recruiting. I know some people like to sort of, only recruit 1-star, so on and so forth. For me, I want the game as hard as possible because it's been so easy. So it's always Heisman mode. I always start on Heisman mode, and I go to the sliders and I turn off all of the computer assistants that could help me.
Oh, I thought you were going to say penalties.
That's right. I'm here to target, baby.
That's right. You want straight up tackle football at every position after the snap.
That's what I want. Listen, if you're going to pick me off in the end zone, I want there to be repercussions.
Right.
And I turn up all the computer sliders for the computer itself. Because that's
so
the
only
way I can get any kind of, once I get to that point, it gets so easy that's the only way that there's any kind of chance that I struggle. So because I'll get to the point where I'll run 4 plays in a game, 4 different plays, and I'm scoring 60 a game, and I don't think that's nearly indicative of a fun experience for me.
You want it to be like, well, I guess like a good metaphor here is bringing you back to Earth, because you like your guys playing with Earth's gravity and the defense playing with like the moon's gravity.
Well, because that's the way the game got built, right? Like the engine of it made
on the moon.
So,
yes.
Yeah, the engine made it really easy to like lose all the gravity for my team. And I need cement shoes sometimes. Like I'll go out there and like find like the quarterback that like runs like a 4.140, and like he may have a terrible arm, but I can still win the Heisman with him because he'll run for 2,800 yards. Like
right.
I don't think that is as fun of an aspect of the college football video game, and I really feel like that I know, again, I'm with you. It's okay to have fun sometimes, but I need there to be a hard as fuck ability and option there. It's gotta be hard, man. Like I want it to, I don't think Alabama's exists all the time in the video game. I don't think you should just be. Alabama's rare. It's really hard to do that. It should be really hard to become like that Alabama over the last 15 years.
I think for people that didn't pick up on something, Arky just really like shed light on, like, if you are starting out as a 1-star offensive coordinator, I know that the game is built to be fun and sling the ball all over the place, but you want to advance quickly, you build yourself a run-heavy playbook. I mean, it is so easy to win that way in this game. You don't even need to be fast.
Well, picking the fast part is the fun, because you're like, hey, this. Oh man, I go and sort through the recruits. Who's the fastest quarterback? He's a 3-star. That's fine. I don't really care.
That's right.
Like I'm not. He's barely going to throw it anyway. So let's just get his.
Can he hold on to the ball? That is all we need.
Yeah, and listen, I could go with 3 turnovers game. Still gonna win by 30. Like it's not that difficult, and I think that takes away from the game. When I would have a tendency to sort of drift away from the game for a couple of weeks, a month or 2 at a time, it would be because of that. It would be like if I go back into my dynasty mode, which is the bread and butter for where I like to play it for the most part. Am I just going to add 1 or 2 more games to the fact that I'm winning by 50? Like to me, that's not nearly as fun as being able to be like challenged for that 25 or 30 minutes.
I hear you.
Yeah. So those are my 4. You start the worst side of the worst side of the ball on the worst team in the nation as a coordinator, of course. You don't change conferences except for when it needs to be reality based, except for the very first season. That's it. Do not change the schedule unless, of course, starts to repeat on you. And we need a hard as shit mode, man. Like, so you just change the sliders and make it as hard as possible from the very beginning. And I do find it's very challenging at the beginning. You do eventually catch up, and the talent does get to a point where you can dominate again. But when you're at the very beginning and you're just coordinating, it's a little more difficult. So that part of the challenge I like.
So mine are, you cannot make a player and create a player in recruiting until you're a head coach. If your head coach gets a new job after year one, you cannot ascend to the head coach of that team. You must name every coach that you are associated with, and you try to run out picks in the end zone.
I do like the third one is very authoritative. You must, and you're like,
you must.
You must name your coaches.
How are you supposed to start conversations about your coaching tree if you have no idea what happened to the offensive coordinator you had when you were coaching, San Jose State?
Before we say goodbye, when you were at the peak of playing, let's just say the 2014 video game, how many people in your life would you have conversations about this video game?
Oh, I had my buddy Jason Kong, who also played the game. He played on Xbox, and he and his buddies from high school played a joint Dynasty. We would constantly be updating each other. I would talk about this game with everybody that liked real college football.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a small group of guys. There's like 5 or 6 that we'd like talk about our stats and who you're with right now and blah, blah, blah. And then if people wanted to sort of talk about, I was never afraid of sort of like talking about the game. I was only afraid of mentioning, hey, I have a notebook full of stats that I've been keeping from my very beginning. So I love talking about this game. It's a wonderful, wonderful game. It's just like anything we love. We want it to be a little better. We want it to be what it can be.
This is where that line for you does not exist for me. I would tell people that know nothing about the game that I have created in the game how they are doing.
Well, listen, I am over that fear now.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Tough news, Dad. You've been fired by ECU as the defensive coordinator.
I cannot wait to tell you where my wife ends up coaching in the first couple of seasons, because I'm definitely sending her somewhere where she's got to earn it.
Oh, man, I can't wait for the incel freak out over having female coaches in the next game. It's going to be a whole segment on Tucker Carlson.
Oh my God! You know what? He can call us and we'll talk about it. We'll
be happy to be on Fox News.
It would be a privilege.
Yes. Actually, I only want to go on What America News, so I know that Mike Gundy is watching.
Now we're talking. Now we're getting to the meat of the matter. We're talking to the gunster.
That's Mike Gundy is my target audience.
All right. That's going to do it for episode 5, My Dynasty, My Rules. You can find us on Twitter, at Arky Shade, at Demetri Ravanas. Please interact with the rules that you would like to play. We'll talk about them at the beginning of the episode next week if you give us any. Come on now. Also, comment under this here video on YouTube as well and tell us the rules you have for instilling your dynasty. Nice fan of Demetri.
There we are.
I
had to make sure both hands are in the shot.
Yeah, he'll figure out the camera at some point. But that's going to do it for us. Hey, by the way, thank you guys so much for subscribing and downloading. Last week was our most popular episode so far, and we're continuing to build every single week, and we really appreciate you guys for sharing our love, which is this podcast and this game, and your love, which is this game too. So that's going to do it for us. Ooh, yeah. Listen, we know we do it for the sex, like I said.
Yes.
That's it for us. Demetri, say goodbye to the good people.
Save and send to next week, everybody.